So I've been doing some testing in Evo to see what kind of frames we can expect depending on what level of graphics we're using and if it really makes a difference. Basically how it's going to go is I'll play the clip, and as you can see on the screen right now, this is what I would normally run. Ultra settings, DLSS on the highest quality, and MSA on 8 times. All the settings that we're going to go through when we get into this part of the video will be the default setting, like so medium, high, ultra. I think I did low as well, and then we're just adding DLSS and in some cases MSAA. At the end of the video there'll be some optimized settings. Feel free to just try them. I'm able to get 150 FPS using them settings, and as you'll see throughout this video, I really don't think changing the graphics makes that much difference to the overall quality of the game. If you really want to push for FPS, then just turn them down. First thing to look at, which is quite interesting, is depending on which view you use, depends on how many frames we get. So we see this normal view where this is the view that I would normally use on Assetto Corsa, where you can see your hands. We're averaging like 74 frames. It's just 70 frames. If we use the dash view, we go to 76. If we go beyond that and use the hood view, it goes up again to 90. And then when we go even further forwards and remove the reflections of the hood, we go up to 94, which if you're looking to gain FPS, just play on hood view. I include third person views for all this as well, just because why not? And you know, people like to play in third person. It looks good graphically, you get to see the car. So the next test is same settings, everything's on high, MSAA on 8 times, but this is running on 1440. Look at the frames, it's on like 125, and then we switch to 4K and it's back down to 75 to 80 FPS, which I think for sim racing is fine. So this next thing, one guy was complaining that DLSS makes the graphics too blurry. So here's a little side-by-side comparison. You see it swipes across the screen, DLSS on, DLSS off. For me, really, you're not going to notice it. And same again, if frames are like a big thing and you want more frames, just turn it on. Or the FSR if you're using AMD graphics cards. Next thing to do that a guy suggested last night, shout out James from Facebook, is update your DLSS. You can just type this in on Google. It'll bring you to this page. You click download on the left, go to your Evo root folder, open that up. I actually put the file on my desktop. Simply just grab the file, drop it in the folder. It'll ask you to overwrite the original, just press yes. He said he's gained around 10 FPS from doing it. I tested it, just sat in the pits, and I didn't seem to gain anything, but it's definitely worth a try. So where we go then, into like the main part of the video. As I said at the beginning, we're just gonna drive and compare each setting for each default preset. So right now we're on medium, DLSS turned off, with MSAA on 2 times, which is just the default setting for medium. So switching it up again to performance, remember to keep your eye on the frames. We're mostly looking at the frames and the quality of the image. For me, the quality of the image pretty much stays the same. There's maybe like minor differences where it's a little bit sharper here and there, or a little bit clearer. When you head down racing, when you know multiplayer comes and whatever else in the future, I feel like at that point you're not gonna notice a little bit of a blurry image, but you are gonna notice the difference between 60 FPS and 90 FPS. So we was discussing this in the Discord last night, and we were saying the difference going from 60 FPS to 90 FPS is definitely noticeable, because when you do get these dips, if you get a dip at 60 FPS and it goes down to 40, you're going to notice that. But when you're at 90 and it dips to 70, it's not noticeable really. And if you can push a little bit further, you know, say you're getting 110 frames just by changing a simple setting, yeah, the quality of the image might not look as good in a still, but I think while you're racing, man, it's barely noticeable. I don't know what this would be like for you guys running triples, but I'm pretty sure at the minute DLSS doesn't work if you have the triples setting turned on. But hopefully in the next update, I'm pretty sure it's due in the next like big update, not these trickle feed things that we've been getting the last couple of days. So there's going to be proper triple support and proper VR support as well, which, man, I'm looking forward to. If you've followed the channel for a while, you know I just do VR now. I can't race on the screen no more, although I have been enjoying just like the little break and just driving on the screen in Evo is perfectly fine, man. Like, I'm loving it. So you can see now we're on high settings with DLSS on performance. So basically stock settings just with DLSS on performance. And to me, it just looks exactly the same as Ultra with the same settings. And we're getting what, 175 frames as we come around that last corner. That's ridiculous. And then we switch to the highest quality, so the best that DLSS alone can make it look, and we're still at 100 FPS, so we haven't changed the MSAA yet, which we will do after this lap. I'm pretty sure on the high one I went up to 8, because this is probably going to be a setting that people will use. You know, if they have a similar spec computer, maybe you can't run ultra, but you can run high settings with DLSS set to performance if you want to generate more frames, or if you want it to look a little bit better, you can put it to the highest quality and still get decent frames. I think to remember as well, I'm running this in 4K, whereas not a lot of people run 4K. They'll be using either like 1080 or 1440. So you can add some more frames on top of that as well, maybe another 30-40 FPS. 4K is really heavy on the system. It seems like even in the test at the beginning with the Fiat 500, man, the amount of frames gained going from 4K down to 1440 is a ridiculous number. So it's here with ultra settings, with DLSS turned off, we're still getting 80 to 90 FPS, high 80s. As soon as you turn DLSS on, put it to performance, 122 FPS in 4K with ultra settings. Like, I get everybody's not going to have a PC the same as mine, but we're getting to the point now where people do have these PCs, or even if it's just a little bit below, you know, say you have a 3080 or a 3090 bloody Ti or something like this. Like, not everybody's running 4K. And not everybody has to run ultra settings with the highest quality and MSAA set to 8. So you see the difference between the performance settings and this that I normally run, high quality, 8 times. I'd sooner have my game looking good, to be honest, than running anywhere over, you know, 80 to 90 FPS. That's enough for me. I don't need any more. So I can pump the settings up to make it look really good. So you see, we just did a full lap and it's anywhere from, I don't know, 75 to high 80s. In third person, it seems to get a little bit more FPS. You'd think it would be less because it's having to generate more shadows around the car, more reflections. But for some reason, we seem to get more frames in third person. But man, if you can go back between the medium settings and these ultra settings and tell me that there's any difference, like really, while you're trying to drive, like there isn't. If you want FPS, you can easily get an FPS. So I tried the same thing in the rain as well. In AC, rain is really heavy on the system. I didn't used to be able to run Shitoku with rain and traffic on my 3080. It just wouldn't allow me to do it. On my new PC, I can quite easily. But yeah, with my old one, I had no chance. So I'm just doing a quick lap here. So we switch to performance, and then as we come around this corner, we switch to high quality, and we can see how the frames are changing. Obviously, this is on low settings as well. We're still getting 120 FPS. So we do it again, medium settings. I felt like I would try and include all the settings for this as well, seeing as though, you know, it's a feature of the game, but I feel like most of the time people are just going to be running, you know, scattered clouds, clear day, middle of the, you know, sunny weather. But it exists, and some people are going to want to do it, especially when people start doing open wild stuff, and if they have dynamic weather turned on, I mean, it can just start raining out of nowhere. But even still, on medium settings, highest quality, 120 FPS ish. Okay, then onto high settings. DLSS off, and it's still getting decent frames. Obviously, it's going to be less than with DLSS on and without the rain. As soon as we turn it on, look at that massive boost. Okay, ultra settings. What's this? 70 FPS with DLSS turned off. So this actual part of the map here, there's a lot of trees here, and I think this is what's causing the frames to drop ever so slightly in this, through this turn. It does it on every single bit of the video. You see, it was up to 110 plus FPS there once we switched to performance, but there's no difference in the visuals. I don't know how people can say, oh, I can't use DLSS. Well, here's your proof. I know it might look different to you on your PC or your screen, your monitor, but I remember switching from using HDR to turning it off. I used HDR forever. I use a 65-inch 4K TV, which does 120 FPS at 4K. But when it comes to recording, I couldn't use HDR because it made all the images go like red, purple, like all these weird colors. like oversaturated. And when I turned that off, it seemed really strange at first, but then I got used to it. The same way turning DLSS on. Gain yourself some frames, give it a day or two, and just get used to it. So I thought I would try the same thing at night as well. I didn't do all the settings for this, I just did my settings to see if there was a difference between driving on a sunny day and driving at night. It seems to maybe down ever so slightly, so let's chuck the rain on as well. It's maybe what, 10 frames less at the most, so it's not that big of a hit really. So these are the settings I mentioned at the beginning. I'm just going to scroll through them and write them down, take screenshots, give them a try. If they're good, let me know in the comments. These are not my settings. I actually picked them up off a guy on Facebook. He claimed it was well optimized. They might work for you, they might not. Bensky tried them and they weren't very good for him, but he didn't have a very good PC. For me, I feel like the best combination will be high settings with DLSS on performance. If I was to suggest some settings to you, that is probably what I would suggest. Or medium on balanced if you're like really struggling, and just leave MSA on 2 times. I feel like that could be a good combo. You're going to get loads of FPS from that. But here I'll show you what these settings look like and the kind of frames that you can maybe expect. This is how it ran on my PC. That might not be the best, that might not be the worst. Give them a go. Let me know in the comments what you think. And I think we just leave it there really. There's nothing really else to say. If you found this video helpful in any way, drop a like, leave a comment, let me know about your experience with Evo so far. I'll catch you in the next one.